Good evening, and thank you for joining us. The Center for Disease Control has labeled an opioid epidemic. In 2014, 47,000 Americans died of overdoses, which annually since then has continuously surpassed Americans dying in motor vehicle accidents, which was number one. In an interview with NBC News in 2016, then Chief Campanello of the Massachusetts Police frustratingly said, 60 years ago, we waged a war against drugs, and guess what? Drugs won. This failing sentiment was equally accepted by many in law enforcement and government. It is true that in the United States, we criminalize people for being addicted to substances, suffering from alcoholism, and stigmatizing and/or criminalizing them just for being mentally ill. If our only goal was to fill prisons with cheap labor, then we've done very well. Yet if our initial goal was to dent or get rid of drugs, decrease alcoholism, and stomp the stigma of mental health issues, we never left square one. The combined federal drug control budget request for fiscal year 2018 was $28 billion. Further statistics on drugs reported 5% of that money is spent on prevention, 33% on domestic law enforcement, and 39% on treatment. Now, to repeat that, the most important factor, 5% of $28 million was spent on prevention. I don't think that's enough if we want to get rid of it. We do not need a pie chart to illustrate we are not fighting the war on drugs using productive weapons, and we are spending $5 million more than in 2013, which indicates we're not getting better at our efforts, we're getting worse. When I was a kid, when faced with challenges that seemed too difficult, we would say, "No way, Jose, I'm not doing that," in opposition of the risk. Being our brother's keeper means effectively saying, "Yes way, Jose," and with that, I propose the Yes Way, Jose program. Any person who enters a police station and requests help with their alcoholism, drug abuse, or mental health will be screened into the Yes Way Jose program and met with non-judgmental, compassionate people. And any and all drugs, alcohol, or contraband will have to be confiscated on the person, their vehicle, and their home swept for such things. They will not be charged for any drug, alcohol, or contraband confiscated during that process. This program is an unconditional positive regard program that has very clear goals. The first goal is to enter the client into a 90-day minimum rehabilitation program, freeing them from any mind-altering substances, as well as providing stabilization of medication for those in need, resources, support programs, and coping mechanisms. Number two is to connect the client with immediate long-term individual and group counseling and support services. 3, to provide tax deductions for companies hiring those with nonviolent drug and alcohol criminal records. These people need jobs. They need to sustain. They need to know that there is hope. Officers who receive a Yes Way Jose client will immediately notify one of the highly trained social workers to assist these clients. Yes Way Jose will be effective in that it can be easily replicated by any precinct and has a direct impact on reducing the amount of money spent on the war on drugs, provides options for those in need of help but not knowing where to receive it, keeps a large portion of offenders out of jail and prison systems, which puts money back into taxpayers' pockets, hopefully. And not to mention is an all-around humane way of treating people well, since the golden rule is to treat others how you want to be treated. As indicated by $28 billion annually spent for dismal results we currently spend on the war against drugs and alcoholism than we ever would on offering services to prevent and keep people off drugs and alcoholism, let alone assisting the mentally ill. In 2016, then President Obama stated that for a long time, I think treatment was a second-class citizen to interdiction, arrest, and incarceration, and that mindset needs to change. He then spoke of the bipartisan mindset shift towards ending the old politics on drugs that included the typical tougher-than-tough stance previously held by the United States, bipartisan. This is a far cry from the current President Trump's stance on drug use, but we will get to that later. The Yes Way Jose program will be financed by reallocating the waste of funds we are currently spending on failing efforts to stop drug abuse. Yes Way Jose will be effective. Programs like it, such as the Angel Initiative specifically for drugs created in Massachusetts, have already seen great success in decriminalizing drug abusers and providing rehabilitation. Other efforts that have seen great success are the Safe Injection Site SITS program in Canada and the Heroin Assisted Treatment program in Switzerland, HATS. In 2018, Senator Cory Booker, Representative Barbara Lee, and allied bipartisan members, yet again bipartisan, of Congress introduced the Marijuana Justice Act to end federal marijuana prohibition and start to repair the disproportionately black and brown communities most negatively affected by the war on drugs. Jeff Sessions is a perfect example of a constituent against efforts to change harsh policy on drugs, as he is an attorney general who opposes legalizing marijuana and changing the laws against them. As well as President Trump, who has publicly praised the tough, stiff laws China and Singapore place on drug use as a gold standard. China and Singapore currently have death penalties for some drug offenses. Politics are not for the squeamish. Every policy is fought for in blood, sweat, and tears to make changes, but the people affected by drugs and alcoholism and mental health are our brothers, sisters, mothers, fathers, neighbors, and yes, way, Josue, we can do something about it. Thank you for your time.
Saya usi.